It's Form Check Friday. I'm here. Clint is asleep on the floor. You're here. It's my favorite day of the week. Let's roll the intro. Hey guys, welcome back to Form Check Friday. Thank you for joining me as always, and thank you to everybody who submitted your video links. I'm doing this a little bit earlier than I normally would. Normally I like to get coffee, take the dog out, get my bearings. But today my lovely girlfriend is flying in and I haven't seen her in a month, so I have to pick her up at the airport. So getting started a little bit earlier, so forgive me if I'm somewhat groggy and slow, but we're gonna get through it. As you guys know, and for those of you joining for the first time, I haven't seen any of these videos, so we're all experiencing this for the first time together. And let's get into it. So, hi Paul. Here's a set of deadlifts from last week, 315 by 5. I had a bit of a mental block between reps 4 and 5. Fun, okay. Thanks for your help. All right, let's take a look and crush some souls here. All right, easy. So as you guys know, I usually watch a couple reps, just get the feel for it, and then we can go back and talk about it. He's flying through these. This is not a heavy set of deadlifts. Where's this mental breakdown we're about to experience? Is this it? Oh yeah. Okay. Excuse me. This always happens in the morning. Okay. All right. So look, here's the deal with the deadlift. It's the squat and the deadlift are very intimidating lifts psychologically. The bench and the press, like nobody freaks out over a bench or a press. You don't have to get psyched up, but the squat and the deadlift, there's a level of psych and fear going into it, particularly with the squat because the bar's on your back. So if you get stuck, you're kind of trapped under it. The deadlift, worst case scenario, you just drop the bar. So it's not that big of a deal, but it still is a psychological battle, which is one of the reasons that we train, right? We're not just trying to get strong physically, we're trying to get strong mentally. So this is why having a coach is a very valuable thing, especially early in your career when you're learning how to push yourself, right? Because as I tell a lot of my clients, and I think I even wrote about this in the book, there's a point where it all feels like shit, right? You get to a weight where everything after that point, you have no idea whether you're doing the rep well or not. It just feels like you're barely holding it together. And it's good to have someone objective watching the bar speed and your technique. And that's primarily what I'm looking for with a lifter is I'm watching his bar speed, meaning I want to see the difference between the first rep and the last rep in terms of how fast it moves. So I'm looking at his bar speed. So if we watch this video again, let's watch the first rep. Nice and smooth, pretty fast. And let's see if we can jump ahead to the last rep. Yeah, right here. Watch the bar speed. Okay, so it was like, I don't know, 10, 20% slower, maybe. It wasn't that much slower. In other words, that wasn't that hard. You weren't shaking, you weren't, doing the deadlift quiver. That did not look like a grindy rep. So if I was coaching you, we're definitely going up next time. In fact, I'd probably put like 10 pounds on that next time at least because it's just not that heavy. The bar speed isn't changing that much. Your form overall is very good. So I like your narrow stance. One of the things I changed with my deadlift is I brought my feet in even closer. Normally we say about 6 to 8 inches, right? But if you pull the heels in a little bit and turn the toes out more, you bring in more adductor. This is your inner thigh muscles. And that, you can feel it a little bit. It feels like you have a little more power off the floor, in my opinion. And anytime you're bringing in more muscle mass, it's going to be a faster, more efficient lift. So I like to turn my feet out, bring my heels a little closer, turn them out a little more like you. And make sure you're pushing the knees out into the elbows, and that'll bring in that adductor. So stance is good. Overall, technique is very good. It's dragging right up the legs. I would recommend, I know it's annoying, but fuck. I would recommend, I know it's annoying, but I would recommend taking your knee sleeves off, because at heavy weight, you don't want anything catching on the knurling of the bar, and that neoprene and the knurling, it's got like little hooks and it kind of grabs. So if you go to a powerlifting meet, you'll see before the deadlift, everybody's outside covering their legs with baby powder because they don't want any resistance on that bar on the thigh. So I'd take the knee sleeves off eventually. You just don't want any extra drag. It's not a big deal. Also, I would pull in your lifting shoes. I know this is controversial, but I find I pull better in my lifting shoes. At worst, it's neutral. At best, you get a little bit more quad off the floor, as they say, because of the heel. But I find that deadlifting barefoot at heavy weight, my feet start to hurt. So not the end of the world, but I would try or experiment with pulling in your lifting shoes. Remember, if you do that, you have to rock back on your heels a little bit more than you would flat. But overall, form is really nice. I mean, it's dragging up your legs, nice and smooth. You could, stand up a little bit more and finish the rep with your shoulders back, but it's, I'm kind of nitpicking here. So here's the mental battle. You're keeping your back, you're setting your back pretty well, keeping it flat, which is the most important thing. And yeah, this is you're fine. The thing with the back is we want the back fully extended. And so what we tell most guys, or what I tell most guys, is I want your back, try and turn your back into a U shape, like overdo it, right? Overextend it. Because most people can't. Every once in a while you get like a really skinny guy who actually can overextend. That's not what we want, because then you're prone to getting an injury. But if you're sort of normally rounded like a normal dude, and then you try and overextend, you're going to end up flat, which is what we want. Some guys can't even really get there. They just kind of, you can see they're extending their back, but it's not, it never gets like concave. And that's okay. The main thing is we don't want to see it moving and flexing as you pull. So if you tighten it to the best of your ability, and then you're able to keep it tight and locked all the way up, even if it looks a little rounded, as long as it's not moving and deforming, you're good. You're efficiently transferring that force without losing it as you're rounding your disc. So you could get your back probably a little flatter, but it doesn't look like it's unlocking. So just make sure you you're putting a little pause in there, which is what I want. But between setting your back and pulling, putting that pause in there to check that you're tight. It's a great rep, man. So here's the thing. Let's talk about the mental thing. You don't want to give yourself an opportunity to get psyched out down there, because this is not a good position to be in, right? The blood's rushing to your head, your thighs are pushing into your belly, you can't breathe, and like the longer you stay down there and think about the next rep, the less likely you are you might quit, you might just give up, you might psych yourself out, or you just waste a bunch of energy staying in that position. So just get it over with. The cadence of your first 4 reps was great. So for the last rep, if you need an extra breath or two to psych up to go, fine. But after that, like, just, as they say, grip it and rip it. Like, just go. And if you get it, you'll probably get it. But if you don't, whatever. But don't stay down there like that for too long, because you're going to talk yourself out of trying it. I see it all the time. People, like, the longer they're down there's got to be some relationship between length of time psyching up for the next rep and the frequency of giving up or quitting on it. So just go and do your best. But overall, this is a great pull. You've got a lot more in the tank. You can pile the weight on here before you're going to slow down. So great work. Thank you for submitting. It was good to have a new guy, and we'll go from there. All right, let's move on. Who's next? Hi, Paul. Thanks for any input you can provide. I experience low back pain and some elbow pain when I squat. So any input you can provide to address those issues would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again. Let's see what we got. Let me get the volume down here. Okay. what do we got, like 225? All right. So let's see what we're dealing with. That is a narrow grip. You must have very flexible shoulders. All right. Yeah, you do. Good. All right, bar. Well, let me do this first. So, where's my drawing tool? This wrist right here, if you notice the difference between that wrist and this wrist, so this one is nice and straight, right? This one has this little kink in it right there, right? So you got one that looks like this and one that kind of looks like this. We need to fix this one. Okay, so the way that you do that, so for your left hand, when you set up on the bar, right? If this is the bar, here, let me use a pen. If this is the bar, when you put your hand on it, you don't grab it like this, with the straight across like this, with the knuckles parallel to the bar, right? Because if you do that and go take it out, it's gonna end up bent, right? So instead, you put your hand on the bar like this, and then you turn it like this. Okay, so you turn it out. And the bar will kind of fall into this little groove in your hand right here. There's a little divot. So you're here, turn it like that, and then you just rest your fingers on it. And then when you take it out, boop, it'll look straight. If you grab it straight across like this, right, and then take it out, it's gonna look like this. So here, turn, fingertips, and then you end up with a nice straight wrist like this. Okay, your other one looks fine. So usually you want to be here, turn out like that, and that'll get rid of, you just need to, you want your thumb knuckle pointed up at like a 45-degree angle. So you do that before you get under the bar. Okay, so you hand on the bar, turn, right? And then your knuckles pointed up at like a 45-degree angle, and that will keep your wrist nice and straight. You won't have any kink in it, any weird pressure like that, which I'll go back and, what did you say? You're getting some, oops, my drawing tool's on. Low back pain and elbow pain. So elbow pain we'll talk about. Let me go through the rep and see. Stance looks good. Okay, this is nice. All right, so watch the hip drive or lack thereof. So if we're looking at his butt, no hip drive at all. Okay, the form is great. You're hitting depth, but you're leading out of the bottom. Okay, so we're at the bottom now, nice depth. But let's watch, so shoulders here, right? And hips here. So what we wanna see is this move first, out of the bottom, before this part. So we should see, if this is his butt, we should see this move a little bit out of the bottom, which shows me that he initiated the drive out of the hole with the hips, all right? So the cue is you're pretending the weight is sitting across your low back, right? If the weight is on your low back and you had to get up, how are you gonna do that, right? Well, if you lift your chest, that barbell is gonna slide off your low back, but you'd have to shove your butt up, right? So let's watch and see. So you guys keep your eyes on the shoulders and the low back and see which one pops out of the hole first. I think you actually did it on that one. Let me see. Wait, let me back up here. All right, one more. Yeah, you actually, of course, the rep that I paused it on for my big dramatic reveal where we show his error, he actually does the hip drive. All right, that's fine. Let's go back and see. That was funny. Okay, let's see. If you watch the earlier reps, you're gonna see that his hips and shoulders just move up perfectly in sync at the same time. That's not what we want. That one, I don't even think hit depth. So it's hard to get a proper bounce. There we go. But you can see that the hip drive is very, that one had none. So that one he just drove right, shoulders straight up. Again, that one no hip drive, and then I think this is the one where he actually nails it. Yeah, that one, you could see that his butt actually did. See, you could see that his butt actually comes up out of the hole first, and then he kind of gets out. So you got the idea. See, this is why you screwed up, right? Because I know you can do it. I know you know how to do it. I just saw you do it. So that's really what's missing from your squat is, and we'll talk about your elbow pain in a second, but lack of hip drive. All right. So when you get down to the bottom, I had one of my clients, I've been saving videos from some of my online coaching clients so I could share them with you guys. Let me see if I can find the hip drive one. Hip drive. Yeah. Okay. So this is one of my online guys. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this with you. But like watch, it's just a great example of hip drive. Like watch his butt out of the bottom. So if we're looking at his hips as he drives up, you should see him move first. Boom. Like, you see that? That pop out of the hole? Bang. Like he's just, I mean, that's exactly what you want right there is down and then butt up. You can see that his butt, his hips are initiating the drive up. And so you see a very slight back angle change, like 2 or 3 degrees, right? The back angle will become slightly more horizontal for a second. And then as you go up higher, the shoulders sort of catch up. And so you get a few inches of just the hips, right? And then everything locks back in and it's nice and even. And then in your case, you need to hang on to that back angle a little bit, like a little higher than you want before you start lifting your chest. Because again, as soon as you start lifting your chest, you stop driving your hips. And when you stop driving your hips, you lose the power. So think about it this way, from the bottom, first hips lead you up. Then the second section is perfectly even, hips and shoulders moving together. And then towards the top, the third section is you stand up, right? So in your case, we need more hip drive. And then hang into that middle part a little longer before you start lifting your chest up, right? Just wherever you think you should start standing up, just delay that a little bit. And then when you get closer to the top, then you stand up. So other than that, I think very good squat. Let's talk about you said low back pain. Let me see if I got any. Okay, so here's potentially why you're getting low back pain, especially at heavy weight, right? So I don't know if this is a light day for you or something, but you're moving this pretty well. But if you come out of the hole, right, and you lift your chest too soon and you kill that hip drive, you'll get stuck, right? You'll just feel it. Like if you ever have a rep where you all of a sudden come out of the bottom and then you just hit a sticking point, you lifted your chest too soon. You got out of your hips and you lifted your chest too soon. Okay, and then what happens at that point is now you're kind of stuck, halfway up in the rep. And the only way that you don't have your hips to power you up anymore. So you're just trying to like muscle it up by lifting your chest, and then you give up your spinal erectors, right? That arch, that solid sort of arch in your low back, the whole back starts to round because you're just trying to get the weight up any way you can. But you're lifting it inefficiently because you gave up all the power in your hips. So your back starts to flex under load, and it can be very subtle, just like a very subtle unlocking of the spine under weight. And that just fries your back. So if you'll notice that if you do that, you just have a real grindy rep, and then you go to deadlift later after that, your deadlift's going to suck. Because you just smoked your spinal erectors and they're done for the day. I mean, I've had days where I've ground out a squat, and you can't really tell, you don't really feel it. But then you go to deadlift and you can't even lift your last warm up because you've just fried your spinal erectors for the day. So the back issues may have something to do with the fact that you have this tendency to kill your hip drive too early and then flex and then allow your back to flex under load just as a way of getting the bar back up. And then you pay for that, okay? Now let's talk about you said you have some elbow pain. So that could be because of this grip thing where you've got a bent wrist, but let me watch your wrist. And I assume when you mean elbow pain, you're talking about tendonitis. Now you're not doing So if you watch your elbows while you're going down and up, let me see. I want to see if I can catch it a little bit better. So if you're talking about tendonitis in your elbows, which is like it feels like an aching in your elbow joint on the medial side, on the inside, and it usually flares up during squats and then carries over into benching. So I'm watching your elbows here, and I want to see if they're moving. Watch your right elbow. So it's kind of up, and then it comes back down. It's subtle, but sometimes even a subtle version of this error can cause the pain. And basically what it is it's sort of cranking on your elbow. I have a video on tendonitis on my YouTube channel called like how to get rid of tendonitis. And you can check that out. I go into a lot more detail there, but one of the things that you might want to try anytime elbows get pissed off is switching from this thumbs on top of the bar grip to a thumb wrapped around grip, right? And this is how I squat. Anytime I have a client that starts complaining about elbow pain, we switch from this thumbs on top grip to the thumbs around grip. And in that position, with your thumbs around, your wrists will be bent. Okay, so don't expect them to be straight. They're going to be bent. The trick is to try that grip for at least 3 workouts because it's going to be uncomfortable at first. You're going to feel a lot of pressure in your wrists. You're going to hate it. But you got to play around with the position on your back and find where you can grab it like that, but still support most of the weight on your back with just a little bit in the bent wrists. But that grip prevents the cranking on the bar, which is the flexing and extending of the wrists. And that causes this elbow pain. So if you just grab the bar with the thumbs around grip and let it sit there, you're less likely to do that. So I use this grip all the time now. And anytime I get a client that has tendonitis, that's the first thing we change is we go from this thumbs on top grip to the thumbs around grip. And it works just as well, in my opinion. You just have to get comfortable with it, but it almost always eliminates the tendonitis because you just with the wrist already bent, it's when your hand is up on top of the bar like this and you're trying to hold it straight, as you go down there's this natural tendency to just roll your wrist back and forward, and sometimes it can be really subtle, just like you barely even notice it, but it's still enough after lots and lots of reps to piss off that tendon. So that might be it. You weren't very specific with what the elbow pain was. If it's tendonitis, check out that video on my YouTube channel and switch to the thumbs around grip for a couple sessions. Remember, stick with it. You're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate it for 3 sessions, and then you'll get used to it. Okay. Overall, great. More hip drive. Stay leaned over longer. You're killing it. Thank you for submitting. I gotta get going. Okay, here we go. We're gonna keep going. Deadlift 330, 42 years old, 240, ending SSNLP. Very matter of fact. Okay, I like it. What do we got here? All right, let's see. 40, what would you say? 42? 42, 330, ending in SSNLP. The starting strength, novice linear progression, the end, the worst. Oh. Okay, man, God bless you. All right, let's see what we're doing. We're reaching for the gods. Okay, before we continue, you got to get some type of mat or, build a platform, get some stall mat. Go get a stall mat from a horse supply company or Tractor Supply, or hit up Grant at the Strength Co. and he'll send you squares of 3/4 inch rubber matting, because you're going to break your plates and you're going to break your concrete. So, all right, but enough lecturing about that. Let's see the form. All right, shins to the bar, hips high, good. Chest up. Okay. He's got that pause in there. Good. All right, we're getting serious now. Okay. Here we go. Last one. All right, man. Nice work. So I think that your weight is actually a little bit too far back on your heels. I think you're rocking back a little bit too much on your heels, which is going to take some of the help from the quads out of this. And you're going to be relying more on hip extension off the floor. So you want to be, again, I always tell people like 60-40. So in all the other lifts, we want even pressure across the surface of the foot. In the deadlift, we want like 60% on the heels and 40% on the toes. But you can't go back too far or it's just gonna be all hip extension. So you want to be over it enough so that you can push with the legs to get that thing off the floor. All right, couple things here. So I want you guys to watch the time that it takes from when he drops his shins to the bar and takes that breath to when he pulls it off the floor. Okay? So shins to the bar, breath again, breath up, exhale, breath again, and then he's going. Okay, so that was 3 breaths between, after you drop your shins to the bar, there's a breath where you kind of set your back and relax. You kind of, and I'm going to make a point here. So so breath and set again, breath and set for real. Yeah. Okay. So that is a whole bunch of wasted effort. And like we talked about in the first deadlift video, you are giving yourself too much opportunity to get psyched out here. So again, I've mentioned this before in other videos, the deadlift cadence, once you have the balance set and you're in the right starting position, right? Once your shins are on the bar, the weight's a little bit on the heels, the hips are where they need to be. Once you're there, breathe, squeeze, pause, pull. 1 breath, set your back, little pause, and go. Okay? Not take a breath, relax, set your back, relax again, take another breath, relax. Okay, now for real, you're wasting so much effort down there. You're gonna get psyched out and you're gonna get dizzy. You're gonna lose that sort of momentum and that cadence that is gonna get you through the set. If you waste all this energy at the first rep, you're not gonna have anything in the tank for the last rep. So once you grab the bar, right, shins to the bar, okay, and then breathe, squeeze, pause, pull. You only want to set your back once, right? It's really hard to do that. So you don't want to set it, relax, set it again a little bit, relax, set it again, relax, okay, then take a breath. Every time you do that, you're wasting energy. Breathe, squeeze, pause, pull, okay? That's the cadence. On the last rep, if you need 2 or 3 breaths to just kind of get psyched up, fine. But for the first 4, at least 3, you should be keeping this cadence so that you just get the momentum going. Okay, aside from that, go through this. Shins to the bar. I want that chin a little bit more. Where do I pause here? This one's tough with pause. So if we look at where we are right there, right? You're looking out here, your chin's kind of here. I want eyes down here. Okay? Chin tucked. Get it in. So you're looking down at the ground here. Okay? And that will help keep you from rocking back, turning this into a squat, and it'll keep you a little bit more over the bar, and it's gonna let you push with the quads a little more. So most people don't rock back enough, and we see the bar swing off their legs, you've got way too much weight on your heels here, and it's affecting the whole movement. So easy fix, just rock forward a little bit. Okay, so if we look at where's the thing? If we look at your setup, so you're here, that's, okay, this position right here with your hips here, that's where you should stay. And all you have to do from this position, just make sure you have a little bit of weight on your heels, but not as much as you're putting there. And then keep your eyes exactly where they are, right? You're already looking down where I want you looking. So all you have to do is flatten this back, right? Harder, squeeze your chest up harder. Like, I mean, I don't think you're ever going to get overextended. I think you're just going to, but you can get flatter than this, right? You want to think about that. Okay. But don't drop your hips any lower than this, because that's when you're rocking back off your heels too much. And yeah, let's just finish the set here. So from now you've already dropped your butt too low and your weight is too far back. And you're trying to set your back from your chin like this. But as I've mentioned before, your head has nothing to do with setting your back, right? You can set your back in extension and have your head in any position, right? So let's not pick the one where we're cranking on our neck. Let's pick the one where our cervical spine is neutral, right? And you set from here, right? So rounded, arched. Here, but the chin has nothing to do with this. Okay, very common. I'm not saying like everybody does this, so I'm not picking on you, but keep that chin tucked, right? And focus on squeezing the chest up, right? You want to think about leaving your hips. Let's see if I can get into this right. Okay, so you want to think about leaving your hips here, although you've already dropped them a little bit there, but then rotating your chest up like that, okay? And then rotating your butt up like that. So the butt goes that way, the chest goes that way, and then we're getting closer to this like U shape. That's what we want. But you have to do that in the correct setup position, which is more weight forward in the middle, right? Off your heels and eyes down, and it'll be good. All right, let's just finish this set. I mean, the pull is nice. It's right on your legs. The other advantage of having mats on the floor on your concrete is you can set it down a lot faster. So when this gets heavy, you don't want to waste a bunch of energy gently putting the bar down so you don't break your plates and break your concrete. You want to just drop the damn bar, okay? Like you want to put it down fast. Let's see. What do I have other? No, that was the other guy. Okay. I thought I had another video to share with you. Okay. Yeah. I mean, overall, these are just minor tweaks in terms of weight distribution on the foot. And spending more effort actually setting your back rather than just trying to crank your neck back. Okay, so takeaways here. Keep the hips up high, right? As soon as your shins touch the bar, that's where your hips go. Okay, if you drop your butt to, get a little bit more slack in the hamstrings and turn this into a squat, the bar will normally shift forward to the middle of your foot, except in your case, you're just overcompensating for that by rocking all your weight back on your heels. And then the bar is going to kind of go in this pattern. It's still not going to be in much of a straight line. So as soon as your shins touch the bar, leave the hips there, keep the chin tucked, and focus on taking a big breath, one big breath, arching your back as hard as you can, pausing, and then pulling, and get that cadence down so you're not psyched out. Breathe, squeeze, pause, pull. Breathe, squeeze, pause, pull. And then just get through that for the first 3 reps, and then you can take a little bit of an extra break or a couple breaths before you pull the last one. All right? Overall, very good. Post another video in the next week or two, and we'll take a look and see if you fixed it. You might have to lower the weight a little bit just to drill the form, but no big deal. You'll end up lifting more in the long run. All right, moving on. 38 years old, 225 pounds, and 375 for 5. All right. Let's see here. It's a cool little thumbnail there. It's like, hey, you guys, watch this shit. All right, that's like the hold my beer face. Okay, what do we got? Where's my volume? Let me... Okay. Oof. Oof. Okay. We got some stuff to talk about here. Thank you. Okay, this is a great illustration of some issues that we haven't covered a lot yet. So, ooh, good Lord. All right, so A for effort, right? That was a hell of a grind. What do we got on there? You got red plates? 375. Okay, so let's break this one down. First of all, we're gonna look at the deadlift setup, okay? Does it work if I just hit pause? Yes, it does. Or space bar, okay. Stance looks pretty good. Now notice that when he reaches down to grab the bar, he's already bending his knees. Now that might be because he has to, but I doubt it. Normally the procedure is you wanna reach down and grab the bar with straight legs or your knees as straight as possible so that once you get your hands on the bar, you can then, so if the bar's over the middle of your foot and your hands are on the bar, then all you have to do is bend your knees until the shins touch the bar, and then you know exactly the correct hip height for you. Okay, and that's how you know. You put the bar where it's supposed to be over the middle of the foot, you reach down and grab it with straight legs, right? Or as straight as you can keep them, and then all you gotta do is bend your knees until the shins lightly touch, and now you know where your hips have to go, okay? You're not doing that. You're starting with bent knees already. And what's gonna happen is watch the plates as he sets up for the deadlift here. See him rolling forward and then more forward, right? So even if he had that bar over the middle of the foot when he started, it's already forward and even more forward now, and it's got to swing back in. So this is a very inefficient start position, and your hips are too low. That's my guess. I mean, well, I know it is, because if you had that bar over the middle of your foot and then you push the bar forward and we saw the plates roll forward, that means the bar is not over the middle of the foot anymore. So that's not an efficient place to pull it. Okay, so now, I mean, this looks like a squat at this point. Like the hips are so low and the knees are really like way over the bar. It looks like you're kind of on your toes a little bit, which is you're gonna have to shift back. Back is a little, see, back. You're setting your back, again, head position, chin's pointed that way. We want down, okay? So that you can focus on, again, just like the last guy, we don't set our back from the neck. We set it from the chest, okay? So, yeah, you see the bar kind of swing back in because he's basically trying to squat his deadlift. And okay. So now, the other thing is, once you set the bar back down, you have to get yourself back into the start position before you go into the next rep. And that means you got to go through the checklist, right? You've got to, so we talked about this last week. You put the bar back down, right? You probably don't put it in front of the middle of your foot. Most people don't. And I'm going to tell you why you are definitely not putting it over the middle of your foot. And this is another error. And I'm sorry, This is just a lot of good examples of things. So I appreciate this video so much because we get to talk about this stuff. So don't feel like I'm picking on you or telling you don't know how to lift or anything like that. These are very common errors. There's just a couple of them, and I'm excited about it. So, so if you put the bar down right, you're not going to put it directly over the middle of your foot, right? So you can't, if you pull it from there, now it's just getting worse, right? So you started here, then in your setup on your first rep, you pushed it a little forward a little bit, and then it swung back in. And then the second rep, you put it here, and then you didn't roll it back, you just went again. So now that distance is even further, and I'm assuming it's just gonna get worse, right? So here's what you have to do. Set the bar down, right? Then push your hips back up. Okay, don't worry about the bar. Push your hips back up until you feel it grab behind the hamstrings. Okay, I went over this last week. Back here, okay, you need to push, before you pull that bar, you need to push your butt back up, okay, until you feel the hamstrings tighten up. So when you lift your butt back up, you'll get to a point where the hamstrings grab. They tense up behind the knees, okay? That's where your hips go. If you don't feel that tension behind your knees, your butt's too low and the bar's forward to the middle of your foot. So push your butt up in the air till you feel the tension. Okay, now, when you do that, your knees will have gone back, because that's how that works. Your butt goes up, your knees come back, which means there's an even bigger gap between your shins and the bar. Fine. Roll the bar back to your shins. Once your hips are in the right height, if you roll the bar back in contact with your shins, now you're back over the middle of your foot, where you need to be to pull that thing in a straight line, okay? And then, once you're there, right, a little bit of weight on the heels, just a little, but keep the hips high, keep that tension on the hamstrings, and then go through the setup. Breathe, squeeze, pause, pull, take a breath, squeeze your chest up, pause for a second, and then pull. You're not doing any of that. You're just setting the bar down in front of the middle of your foot and going into the next rep, which means you're not getting the bar back over the middle of your foot. You're not squeezing your chest up. You're not setting your back again, right? And it's just it's getting worse every rep, because you don't treat this as a set of 5. Treat this as 5 individual deadlifts that you're trying to make identical, but you're just not letting go of the bar in between, right? So each rep has to get the attention of the proper setup procedure, because if the setup is wrong, if you're not in the correct start position, the whole rep's going to be wrong. Okay, so you have to take time between each rep to get and this is every lift. In between reps, take time to get yourself back in the correct start position so you have a shot at actually, getting the bar off the floor in the correct, nice straight line. All right, so let's watch. I'm gonna go back here. Oops, drawing tool. Where's my play button? All right, so we're gonna start at the beginning. All right. So bar's rolling forward, and then it comes back in, right? Now, you lock it out, and now watch how you set that bar down, okay? So watch what happens to his knees and the bar as he puts that down, as he starts putting it back down. You're gonna see it slide off his thighs. Right now it's way in front of the middle of the foot, no reset, just went back into the next rep. And okay, so this is the other thing that I liked and I appreciate you posting. Okay, see that? This right here, this ramp that he's building. Okay, in the deadlift, there are 2 joints that move, right? The knees and the hips, okay? And they have to flex and extend in a particular order for this bar to come up in a nice straight line. And the order off the floor from the ground is knees extend and then hips extend. Knees straighten out, right? And then hips straighten out. You can think of it, knees open up, then hips open up, okay? And that way, the bar will move in a perfectly straight line, because the knees will pull back out of the way as you push with the legs. And then once the knees pull out of the way, then you can start opening up your hips and the bar will move in a straight line. If you do the opposite of that and you keep your knees bent and open up your hips, the bar is going to travel out. It has to travel around your knee. But if you keep the hip angle closed and open the knee angle, right, off the floor, then the knees will get out of the way. The bar can come up in a straight line. Down, the descent is the opposite. Hips flex, then knees flex. So from the top, you keep your knees relatively straight and you lean over and stick your butt back and slide the bar down your thighs, right? And then once the bar crosses the knee, then you bend your knees just enough to set it back down on the ground. You'll be right back over the middle of the foot. So off the floor is knees, hips, and from the top down is hips, knees. In other words, hips flex, then knees flex. If you do the opposite of that, putting the bar down, which is what you're doing, and you bend the knees too much without flexing the hips first, you build this ramp, right? If I'm here, right? Sorry, buddy. From the top, I want to go hips first and then knees, just enough to get it back down on the ground. So I stick my butt back, I keep my knees relatively straight, and then once I cross the knee, I just have to bend the knees enough, and I'm right back in the correct start position. If I do this, and look at, now I have this ramp. So now when I lean over, the bar is gonna slide forward off my thighs and it's gonna end up, 6 inches in front of the middle of my foot. So off the ground, if you watch my knees, right? Knees pull back, then hips. And down is hips, knees. Knees, hips, right? If I come off the floor like this and open up my hips, now the bar has to travel around my knees. Okay, so that's a big one. You've got all this knee bend on the way down. You need to keep your knees straighter longer, and you won't end up so far out in front of the middle of your foot. Right now, yeah. You see that swoop back in with the bar? It's because you're not starting over the middle of your foot, because you're sliding the bar off your knees, and then you're not correcting the start position. So from here, what you have to do here is, I'll go through all the steps, right? Where's my, okay, drawing tool. What happened? Where's my mouse? Okay. All right, so the steps from here would be hips go up, right? Tension on the hamstrings. Then, in that position, rock with the hips high, rock your weight back a little bit onto your heels. Don't drop your butt. Just shift your weight a little bit so you got a little bit more pressure on the heels. Don't turn it into a squat. Hips stay high. It's just weight distribution on the foot. You're just rocking back a little bit. And then, right, you're gonna pull the bar back to your shins. So with the hips high and the weight back on the heels, roll the bar back to your shins. You'll be right over the middle of the foot. And then take a breath, squeeze your chest up, pause to make sure that you are as arched and as tight as you can be, and then pull. And then also get your eyes, like right about down here, okay? Take your time between each rep, because you're gonna, so that you can reset that start position. So the bar's not swinging all over the place. And then on the way down, hips unlock, you see you're bending your knees right away, and that just makes that off ramp, this ramp for the bar to end up way in front of the middle of your foot. Okay, so you can watch, if you go there, maybe I can link to it, but their Starting Strength has if you go to YouTube and the Starting Strength channel, they have a how-to for each lift. They did a great job with these videos of just walking you through exactly what I just told you in a much more concise manner. Watch those. Take a little bit of weight off the bar to address it, and then we'll go from there. Post another video and we'll dial this in. Okay, I'm like so running out of time. She's gonna be so pissed. Let me see if I can get this last one in. Hey guys, here's a link to last week's deadlift session, 405 by 5. Upper and lower back feel tight before pulling, but the tape doesn't lie. What is your assessment of the back position? All right, I'm gonna have to. Can't leave my girlfriend standing at the airport. All right, here we go. We'll do this one as quick as we can. All right, it's hard to tell with the plates in the way, but I don't think that bar is touching your legs. It's off your shins and it's off your thighs. So it's out in front of you. So look, you're about to pull right here and you notice how round your back is, right? Again, you're trying to set if you watch the last video and all the deadlifts have had the same problem, that you guys are looking with your chin up here, trying to set your back like this. So your back stays round, but you're setting your cervical spine. Head down, arched back, right? You set from the chest. So we can keep your chin tucked, right? Like you're holding an orange under your head or under your chin, and you're looking down here. So so we want this neutral, the neck to be neutral, right? And this is the part here that needs to get set. So it needs to look like this, right? Or at least we got to get rid of this hump right here. So the way that you do that is you focus on here, right? Rotate the chest up with it, and then rotate the pelvis up here, because we're trying to get this section flat, okay? I want this to look like a U, okay? So yeah, and then that bar, so I think all right, let me go through this again. You're dropping your hips. So I don't think that bar is set up over the middle of your foot. That should be, when you look down, that bar should be 1 inch away from your shins. It should be right over, if you got the Rogues on, you should have a strap, right? It should be right over that strap, 1 inch away from your shins. I think that bar might be a little too, I might be totally wrong because I can't see it, but I get that sense that it's too far away from the middle of your foot. So let's see how you set this up. Yeah, so you see how you bump the bar forward there? Because you're dropping your hips too low. So the way that this should work is from this position, you should leave your hips high, and that might be, I need to see, yeah. You're dropping your butt too low. So what you want is shins 1 inch away from the bar, right? And then reach down and grab it, and then bend your knees just enough to the shins touch the bar. That's where your hips should go. Right now your hips are too high. But so if you bend your knees just enough, your butt will come down, and then when your shins are in contact, that tells you exactly where the hips need to be. Your hips probably need to be like here, like right where they are in this little clip. That's probably about the right height for you. But I think that bar is still forward of your midfoot. So you're actually going to drop your butt even lower and turn this into a squat, which is not what we want. And then that bar, the weight needs to be a little bit more on your heels so that bar stays in contact with your legs all the way up. See how it's swinging out away from you when you start the pull? Yeah. So in that case, you actually rolled the bar. Yeah, so you're dropping your butt, and this is, again, why we need the breathe, squeeze, pause, pull, because if you set your back and try and pick the bar up at the same time, the bar's gonna swing off your legs, right? Because if you're setting and trying to lift at the same time, so the bar swings forward. So instead, you need to set your back and hold it. So every time you drop your butt like that, you push the bar forward, and then you pull with the bar forward, right? And then it's away from you the whole time. So, all right. Let me watch this one more time, and then I gotta run. This is gonna be kind of a shitty form check. I'm sorry. She just landed. I gotta get out of here. All right. So we need to work on setting the back, making that arched. Yeah, and then we're getting into this thing where we're dropping your hips too low. So remember, from here, right? When you, yeah, see, you're doing kind of the opposite. Like when you're doing these, you actually have your butt up too high. So yeah, so you're shoving your ass up real high like that, right? Every time. And then trying to drop your hips, squeeze your chest up, and pick the bar up at the same time in this, it's like this big one circular thing, and the bar's kind of swinging out in a loop away from your legs. So instead, you need to get to this position, get here, right? Maybe with the hips a little bit higher, looking down, get into that position with your weight a little bit back on your heels, and then initiate the setup procedure. Breathe, squeeze, pause, pull. Don't initiate your setup procedure like from here. Like, okay, my ass is way up in the air, that my shins aren't touching the bar, and from here, I'm just gonna go. Because then we get into this dropping the hips, squeezing the chest, and swinging the bar away all at the same time. And that, yeah. So instead, get yourself into the right start position, which is like here. So you're already trying to go from here. Get there with the weight a little bit on your heels, balanced, but a little bit to the back. And then take a breath, flatten your back, hold it, and then just push the floor away from this position right here. And you'll get less of this bar rolling and like there. And you're not really giving yourself an opportunity to set your back, because with the hips that high, you can't set your back, right? So you're kind of starting to try to set your back with the hips way too high. Instead, bring it back down to the correct start position, shins on the bar, tension on the hamstrings, right? And then from there, balance on the midfoot, and then from there, initiate. Squeeze the chest up. Okay? Work on that. Thank you guys all for submitting. I am so late. I'm going to be in trouble. But appreciate it. I will get this up in a little bit later today. Thank you again, and we'll do this all next week. All right, guys. I'll see you online.